It was a crisp Saturday morning when Jacob woke up, picturing a peaceful day sipping coffee on his porch, maybe pruning the roses if the mood hit. But as he stepped outside, mug in hand, his jaw dropped. A full-blown construction crew was hammering away in his backyard, erecting a massive shed 6 feet over his property line. The clatter of nail guns and the smell of fresh lumber hit him like a punch. This wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare with a power tool soundtrack. Storming out in his slippers, heart racing, Jacob spotted Lillian, the HOA president, standing on the other side of the fence, hands on hips, smirking like she was overseeing a shrine to her own ego. Fury surged in his chest, but before he could let it rip, he flagged down a worker in a neon vest, casually sipping a soda. "Why the hell are you building on my land?" Jacob demanded. The worker shrugged, unfazed. "Talk to Mrs. Lillian. We just build where we're told." Jacob's eyes narrowed. Yelling at the crew was pointless. Lillian was the mastermind, and she was about to meet her match. Later that afternoon, after the crew broke for lunch, Jacob confronted Lillian. She barely glanced up from her clipboard, her tone oozing condescension. "The HOA decided that empty lot next to your yard is community property. We're building a shared storage shed for neighborhood equipment." Jacob blinked, stunned by her gall. "That's my land, Lillian. Inside my fence, with my property markers." She gave a tight, patronizing laugh. "We all sacrifice for the greater good, Jacob." His fists clenched, but he swallowed his rage. This wasn't a shouting match. This was war, and he'd play it smart. That night, Jacob turned his kitchen table into a command center, spreading out property deeds, maps, and HOA agreements. The documents were crystal clear. The shed was 6 feet onto his land, and Lillian had no legal claim. He could have called a lawyer or demolished the shed, but a sly idea sparked. Lillian thought she could steal his property? Fine. She'd just built him a free rental unit, gift-wrapped in her own arrogance. By midnight, Jacob was crafting a rental listing, snapping artsy photos of the shed under the evening sky to make it look like a suburban treasure. His description hyped its brand-new construction and secure location, stretching the truth just enough to lure renters. When he hit post, he leaned back, grinning like he'd outfoxed a coyote. Lillian thought she was building a shed. She didn't know she'd built herself a trap. The next morning, his phone blew up with inquiries. Affordable storage was in demand, and by noon, Jacob had a showing lined up with Mr. Harris, a retired veteran needing space for camping gear. Harris loved the shed and signed a lease on the spot, handing over a cash deposit. Just like that, Lillian's illegal structure was generating passive income. The real show began when Lillian spotted Harris unloading his gear. She stormed over, face redder than a fire truck, demanding answers. Jacob, cool as ice, flashed the property deed and rental contract. "It's on my land, Lillian. I can rent it to whoever I want." Her jaw trembled, but she had no comeback. Threatening to call the HOA lawyer, she stomped off, and Jacob couldn't suppress a chuckle. Round 1. Jacob. Lillian wasn't one to wave a white flag, though. By afternoon, Jacob noticed her huddling with her HOA cronies, whispering like plotters in a bad movie. That evening, a letter arrived, stamped with HOA letterhead, fining him for an unauthorized structure and ordering him to stop renting. Jacob laughed so hard he nearly spilled his coffee. Did Lillian really think she could bully him with fake authority? He drafted a response, attaching his deed, city zoning rules, and a blistering letter telling the HOA to shove their complaint where the sun didn't shine. He hand-delivered it to their office, spotting Lillian lurking behind the desk, pretending to shuffle papers. With a cheerful wave, he left, letting the silence roar louder than any argument. 2 days later, an orange notice appeared on the shed, declaring it non-compliant and demanding removal. Jacob didn't flinch. He called the Cedar Grove zoning department, and within an hour, an inspector named Tom arrived. After reviewing the documents, Tom chuckled. "This shed's legal on your land, buddy." Whoever's behind this should read the zoning code. As they chatted, Lillian swooped in, ranting about HOA rights and neighborhood standards. Tom calmly shut her down, explaining the law while her face turned a blotchy purple. She stormed off, nearly tripping in her fury. Lillian's retaliation grew petty. She filed anonymous complaints, claiming Jacob was running an illegal business. The city dismissed them after reviewing his documents. She even tossed trash around the shed, calling it a health hazard. Jacob countered with motion sensor cameras, posting the footage on the Cedar Grove neighborhood forum. Clips of Lillian and her lackey trespassing went viral, turning her into a laughingstock. Neighbors who'd once feared her now openly mocked her reign of terror. The tide turned when Evan, a quiet HOA board member, slipped Jacob a USB drive. "You didn't get this from me," he whispered before vanishing. Inside were emails exposing Lillian's scheme to seize private properties for community projects without permission. Phrases like "they'll never know" and "just build it" revealed her abuse of power. Jacob's jaw dropped. This wasn't just arrogance, it was corruption. He filed a complaint with the city and state HOA board, attaching the emails and Lillian's fake notices. He didn't gloat. He waited, letting Lillian's web tighten around her. The fallout was swift. The city launched an investigation, uncovering Lillian's other violations: unpermitted structures, littering public spaces, including a half-finished pergola in Maple Park. Neon violation notices sprouted like weeds, branding the HOA a circus. Lillian called an emergency meeting, painting Jacob as a saboteur, but it backfired spectacularly. Armed with the emails, Jacob distributed copies to the crowd. The room fell silent as residents read her plans to annex their land. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Wallace, erupted, demanding her removal. Evan confessed to being coerced into her schemes, sealing her fate. In a crushing vote, Lillian was ousted as HOA president, her empire reduced to rubble. But karma wasn't done. The city held Lillian personally liable for her unauthorized projects, slapping her with thousands in fines. She liquidated assets, her SUV, her savings, desperate to stay afloat. In a twist of irony, she approached Jacob to rent the shed, tail between her legs. Savoring the moment, he demanded 3 months' rent up front and a hefty deposit. Her shaky signature on the contract was a masterpiece of defeat. Every month, she trudged to his porch, handing over rent while neighbors smirked. Jacob hosted casual gatherings on payment days, amplifying her humiliation. As Lillian faded, Cedar Grove bloomed. Block parties buzzed, and Maple Park thrived under new HOA leadership. The shed, upgraded with solar lights and insulation, became a local legend. Neighbors stopped by, marveling at Jacob's cunning. Lillian helped, he'd say with a wink. Her house sat unsold, tainted by her legacy of chaos. Eventually, she moved out, her departure marked by a silent moving truck and no farewells. Jacob watched, feeling a mix of triumph and pity. She'd built her downfall brick by brick. At the annual Cedar Grove Fair, Jacob received a Golden Hammer Award, engraved Neighborhood Hero. The crowd roared as he raised it high, a nod to the shed that symbolized resilience. Sipping iced tea on his porch, he toasted the shed's fairy lights swaying in the breeze. Lillian had tried to crush him, but she'd built a monument to her own defeat. Jacob won not with fists, but with wit, patience, and the quiet power of a community that refused to bow. The shed stood proud, a testament to the sweetest victory, living well while your enemy funds your success. Cedar Grove was free, the shed was his, and Lillian's reign was nothing but a fading echo.